Hi, guys, and welcome back to Emerald in Mind. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to my next guest. She is the semi finalist of MasterChef and a private chef to celebrities. So please welcome Nisha Parmar. So, hi,
Oh,
Nisha.
wow. Thank you. Thanks, Shivani. What a lovely introduction. Thank
That's
you.
true, right? I didn't make any of it up.
And if you only hear it back, it always sounds even nicer. So thank you.
Cool. No, okay, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just juggling loads of things. We've got Christmas coming up, and then the schools, and just got loads of bits going on. But yeah, I'm in a good place.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today. I feel like we've connected for ages and we recently met, which is really nice. So I'm really excited for this conversation. But for people who don't really know who you are or your background, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm not a classically or professionally trained chef at all. My
Mhm.
life has got like two chapters, I'd like to say. I almost feel like I was reborn after MasterChef because for 20 years I've spent time in the city. I mean, that sounds like a prison sentence, doesn't it? Spent time. But almost it was like being handcuffed to a desk, in a job that I started off doing because I didn't know anything else, and I thought, yeah, this is great. It kind of paves the way to get on the property ladder. It was like a solid job. But cutting a long story short, 20 years in banking, go on MasterChef, kind of changed my life, and I set up a business on my own, and I've never looked back.
Amazing.
It's
It's
been, yeah.
crazy. I mean, when I spoke to you, I remember one of the first things I asked, and I'm sure people listening and watching this are thinking, why did you apply to be a master chef? If you didn't have such a great, if you didn't train professionally to be a chef, or you weren't cooking all the time because you were working so much in the city, kind of what pushed you to do that?
Oh, absolutely valid question. I never thought, especially from the Asian culture, that food or cooking, you can get paid from it. I didn't think it was a
Right.
career. Like, when you're looking at careers or, you're picking your A levels, like, there's never a food tech career, or, it just isn't even
Mm.
in a syllabus. Like, you just don't do that. It's just something you do for fun, right? So it was actually my husband who works for himself. He used to come home every day so excited about his day, with spring in his step. Oh, I did this today. I did that today.
Mm.
How was your day? And I'd go, don't ask me, the same as yesterday. I just
Mm.
became a really sort of miserable, horrible person to be around before work, after work, on a Sunday, that classic kind of trap of just
Mm.
existing, but not really knowing what was wrong. I remember, I think, one time even saying, I think I need another baby. And he's like, you want that for mat leave to get away from work? I'm like, actually, I think I do. And that's when I thought, gosh, there's a real problem. I need to
Mm.
really assess this. But I didn't have any way out. I was, in a box. All I knew was finance. You do get pigeonholed. And so my husband was like, find a new job, go somewhere else. I was like, I can't, it'll just be finance. I just like, this is my life. I don't see any way out. Feeling of trapped. Um, yeah, came into it. So yeah, then my husband just
Amazing.
said, we always watched MasterChef every single year. And as a joke, he always just said, you should go on here, you should go on here. And I said, yeah,
Mhm.
whatever. No way am I going on here. Crazy people go on there. Well, to get my food assessed, and if they tell me it's rubbish, I'll never cook for you again, I used to say to him. And I think it was that confidence thing as well. If they told me, like, I did it for enjoyment, so and I thought, no, I'm not good enough to go on there.
Right.
Anyway, it got to the point where he really pushed me to go on it. It was my husband, totally.
I love that.
We got to the point where he was like, you are just not a nice person to be around. You need something to change. Go on this. I took it as a joke. He sort of started filling in the application form.
Hmm.
I finished it off and submitted it literally after a few glasses of wine. I took it as a complete joke, thinking I'm not going to get on it. I don't care about it. This is just to shut him up. And then I got on. So yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
pretty
It's
much.
absolutely crazy. And I think when I'm listening back to your story, every time I hear it, I think this is something from a movie. It's obviously not real, like your journey is so
Oh,
spontaneous and exciting, and you filled it out after a couple glasses of wine. But what really actually stood out to me when you were telling me that was just the power of having the right people around you. And I think that having someone like a partner or a friend or a parent or whoever it is, just having a right group of friends or that circle around you that will support you and push you and also just allow you to grow. So, your husband could have turned around and just said, you're miserable to be around. I don't want to be around you. I'm going to distance myself from you. But
yeah.
actually recognizing that what's the deeper thing here? It's actually your work. So how can we change that? And so that to me is really amazing. And I think something that people definitely underestimate is your support to your friend, your partner, your daughter, your son, whoever it is. is so invaluable and can really change the direction of their life. And I love that about your story. So then tell me, so you went on MasterChef, and then did you go back to work, or did you just start cooking full time?
Yeah, well, no, that's when it ends. You get kicked out and you don't get given anything. People think you might be given all these opportunities, and you don't
Right.
get given anything. You're like, okay, thank you very much, goodbye, and that is the end. And you think, oh my God, I've just done that for like almost 2 to 3 months of my life. It's completely
Mm.
taken over. And now what? And then I was like, oh my goodness, I'm sat back in the same place I was before. And I sat back in my seat, and more than ever, I realised, my soul was dead sitting there. I was like, what am I doing here? I do not belong here. Something needs to change. Um, and that's when the realisation was, yes, I need to build something to get out of here. But again, I couldn't, because I was trapped by, I hate using that word trapped, but almost like, I didn't have a way out because, money. At the end of the day, I had, that job was my security. That was my
Yeah.
home, my mortgage, just the basics. Um, so now that there was two factors in this, and yes, I've done MasterChef. Now, what do I do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have no idea. Like, I was like, I don't really want to work in a restaurant
Right.
because I have kids and that's long hours. And I'm like, what else do you do with food? I mean, you think of like, oh, a chef, you work in a restaurant. There's no other. What other careers are there? I didn't know
Mm.
what else I could do. Um, and so after that, while I sat there every single day, just thinking about how to get out of there. It was a little bit of a fate sort of moment. The banker that sits next to me sort of said, "Oh, I've got these, guys coming around. We're all in the same regiment. We're marching at Buckingham Palace tomorrow, but we want a dinner before we go there. So
Mm-hmm.
will you be able to cook for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Never done that before. I had never cooked for 16 people, like a posh dinner
Yeah.
in Chelsea for these like high, these soldiers almost, from with a royal, regiment. I was like, and I just did that, and I think that's one of the best things I ever did, because I said yes and dealt with it later.
Right.
Like, just take the opportunity, and sometimes and that fear and that sort of you'll just make it work. So that's where my sort of pinnacle moment was, that first dinner party where I had no clue what to do, how to put on a dinner party, anything, and just took that opportunity,
Amazing.
went home, told Sachin, my husband,
Yeah.
and he went, just do it. He goes, you'll do it. And then I just started planning it from there. And I
Amazing.
think that's how it was born.
So what's so crazy is that you just came on MasterChef. You were a semi-finalist, right? And even with getting all this praise and all these people supporting you, because I remember you telling me everyone at your bank was supporting you, had a lot of
Yeah.
people around you that were saying, you're amazing. And also you were on TV and they were telling you your cooking was amazing. But yet you still had the imposter syndrome when someone asked you to cook for a dinner party. And I think that's so relevant with any entrepreneur in any business, is that you'll always feel the imposter syndrome. Do you still feel that now?
Yes, I do. Not so much, but I always have balance of that, but I use it in a positive way to keep me
Mm-hmm.
grounded. I don't think it's such a bad thing if you can recognize it and just go, pull yourself
Yeah,
together, come on, and turn it into a positive. I think
definitely.
those little moments are just reality and a way of not letting you, sort of get, not even big-headedness, but kind of like get arrogant and become like less grateful for it. It kind of makes
Absolutely.
you think, and it keeps you going and works. It makes you work harder. So if you can turn that imposter syndrome, all that energy, all that negative energy, into something positive, the minute I get that, I think, right, what can I do about this?
And
Um,
I think you only really get imposter syndrome when it's something that you care about, right? So if you didn't
yeah,
care, you wouldn't feel, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be the best, or I need this to be amazing. You would just think, okay, I'm not really that bothered. So I think, like you said, when you turn it into a positive and you use it as something that's actually a point for you to think, well, I do really care about this, and I really want to do well in this. It shifts that perspective, doesn't it?
oh, absolutely, 100% does. And, it's a lot of passion, confidence, the right people around you. You do need all these elements, to keep that at bay. Because, yeah, there is that other spectrum, isn't there, where it can go the other way and completely destroy you as well. So, I'm very aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being in a job before where, that got me very low and down,
Mm-hmm.
never want to feel like that again. So you kind of keep yourself motivated not to go there. But yeah, even thinking about it now, like, I think that's one of the fears, that I think if this doesn't work, then my only option is to go back there, and I never want to go back there. So
We'll make sure you
yeah,
don't.
there's all these like coping mechanisms.
Absolutely. What's really interesting is that I think there's a lot of debate around social media and how toxic it is and how terrible it is. And, you know, I'm very grateful to it in a lot of ways because we wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for social media. But at the same time, I do think it can be toxic. And having a business that is solely reliant on social media, you know, my podcast is solely reliant on social media, can be detrimental. Do you feel that's the same with the Secret Garden, or you know the recipes that you share on YouTube and Instagram as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been the best platform. Like you say, I've set up my whole business from Instagram. You know, it's a free platform. However, now I am seeing ways of, although it's free, you've really got to play to their tune. And sometimes the pressures of just everyday life, like having to keep up with this algorithm and, you know, doing all the new things. And you realize actually, yeah, it's great, but if you don't keep up with it, it can almost fall down. And then you do get that whole rat race thing. You're almost in a rat race with this virtual world, which is the new way of the world. But yeah, you feel the pressure, and it can be toxic. Toxic in the sense of, you know, I think I've built a very positive platform, and I'm so lucky that I don't get trolled, and I don't. But I know that world exists. So I'm very careful of like what I put out there and how I portray myself. And I think being authentic and genuine, you know, that should come across as much as possible. But, you know, little bits, naturally, like, you know, things like copying. Like, I might have worked so hard on a recipe, and then someone else might have just gone and copied it and put it on their Instagram, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it because I haven't got a patent, the recipe hasn't got any sort of copyright. How can I say that's mine? And sometimes, you know, you feel so angry and you want to call that person up, and I think once or twice I might have said something like, oh, that looks very familiar to mine, and they might have gone, they react back, and then you just end up looking stupid, and you think there's just no point. So sometimes you're like fighting these battles virtually, which are unnecessary. And now that's another thing I've really learned about social media is like, if you're not a strong person and strong enough to handle not only criticism, but yeah, little things like that, copying, plagiarism, you know, your work a little bit getting abused, and wouldn't even say abused, but just you can't handle those kind of elements of it. I don't think it's a place where you should be, because it can really impact on
definitely does. I think social media has really impacted everyone's lives drastically, and we're seeing a massive rise in mental illnesses from it. So I think it should be used with caution, and I think the thing that's most important is you should just do things that are authentic to you. So even with me, sometimes I feel that even with this podcast, you know, generally people release them consistently and constantly. Unfortunately, I'm unable to do that because I have a full-time job. I have 2 other businesses, so it's very hard for me to do this and this and this all at the same time. And I'm okay with that. You know, I may not be growing at the level that a lot of people think I should be, or that compared to a lot of people that have a podcast are, but I'm very comfortable with the way that I'm doing it. And so that's what makes me happy. But it is very easy for me to say that in this position that I am right now, because there are days where I'm like, I should be posting every day, I should be churning out content every day, you know, I should just be talking about things that I don't really know a lot about, but at least I'm getting content about. And then I'm like, no, I'm someone who wants to research into all of my podcast guests and research into the topic before I speak about it, so that I know that I'm having almost a coherent debate and argument around certain points, right? But I think it is really hard to fall into that trap of comparison, and I think through this platform, we just have to be really aware of it before we use it, and consciously follow accounts that make us feel happy. And I've done that recently. I've just unfollowed loads of people. I continuously do that, to be honest. I just unfollow people and mute their stories. If there's someone like a family friend that I have to keep on following, I just mute their stories because
unnecessary noise. Yeah, I totally agree. It's unnecessary noise. If it's not sort of fulfilling your life in a positive way, then you don't need to see it. And it's just clutter, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think, no, you make very, very, very relevant points about that whole social media thing, because I feel that sometimes as well. Like, I might not have posted in a month or something, but I think it's okay. And then suddenly I'll see someone else constantly posting. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to? Should I be posting? You know, and who am I doing it for? You've really got to understand who you're doing it for. I'd rather post some content that's really useful or like really interesting, or something I know my followers will really appreciate. Like recently I just put a recipe out there because I knew they'd love that, and I haven't posted a recipe in like a few months because I've been busy. You know, I've set up my new business, I've been working, I've actually been getting on with real life work rather than virtual work, although that does also feel like, you know, full-time work, like doing the Instagramming.
Absolutely.
But yeah, trying not to get absorbed in this race, although it is difficult, and it almost does feel like a race or a competition, and there's followers and there's all this sort of stuff. And unless you can, be okay with it like how you are, you've got to make peace with it. Go, it's okay, I'll post when I want to. And it's for, who are you doing it for? You've always got to ask that question. Are you doing it for followers? Are you doing it for your own self-esteem? What is it for? Who is it for?
Yeah, or you're doing it to help others, and you're doing it to share some actually valuable content, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I've really come to that conclusion that I'm only going to post when I'm really happy about, making that content, because I loved making that content.
Yeah,
I'm really happy about posting that content, not just posting it for the sake of posting. It has to be something I'm so proud about, or yeah.
exactly. No, I completely agree. One thing I find though about you, which is amazing and also crazy, is you have so many businesses and you're a mom of two. So, I think people who aren't mums, like me, very naive, sometimes just think you have two kids, like they go to school or, they're at nursery and that's it. And recently my cousin, she has two kids, and recently I spent a day with both of them, and I was like, how do you do it? How do you get ready every morning? How do you put on makeup? How do you look nice? How's your house clean? How do you do everything? I don't understand. But you have two children and two businesses and Instagram and everything else, which I also think when you're not on social media and you don't have a big following on Instagram, you don't really get it. You just think, take a photo and upload it, right? Write a caption, take a photo, upload it. There's so much strategy, so much thinking, so much thought that needs to go into it.
Yeah.
And you have all these other things at the same time. How do you cope? How do you manage?
Oh gosh, I think I am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie when it comes to, just being busy and doing, and
Yeah.
that's my fault actually. Sometimes not staying still and just enjoying that moment. Like the only time I really reflect and sit back and go, oh, okay, that was actually quite good, is when I actually take myself out of this, little rat race. I do that when I go on holiday, but the answer is, I think, being in a job before, which was just the same old Groundhog Day every single day, which was boring and not thrilling. Now I've created this world which I love, and I've got everything. There's nothing that I can't be grateful for. I have children, they're healthy, and I have a job. And I mean, it all sounds very cliche, but everything I have, I'm like, wow, I've got this, tick, tick, tick. It's brilliant. I've got it. What else more could I want? And I think when you have children, you realise the sort of precious amount of time, like every hour, how much you can fit into it. You just automatically, you thought you could juggle things before. Like I remember, like when I was at university, I thought, oh look, I can do a degree and I can have a Saturday job. Wow, look at me, I'm so great. But you're really not. You kind of in one day, there's 24 hours, and there's 24 hours. You only spend 7 sleeping. So what are you doing with the other hours? So if you're not making them count, I mean, you don't have to make them count, of course, and I always set aside good 4 hours, 5 hours to do absolutely nothing. The power of doing absolutely nothing as well is so important. And one of my coping mechanisms is also being alone. I love my alone time.
Same.
Because I'm always so switched on. Like I run a business, I run a restaurant which is and people want to see me and they want to talk to me and they want to take a photo and they want a piece of me. Everyone wants a piece of me. You're on social media, everyone wants a piece of you. They want to, and sometimes you feel consumed by a little bit of social exhaustion. So I'm always putting, like, once the kids have gone to sleep and I've done the whole, dinner, bedtime, bath, book, homework, blah, blah, 8:30, 9 o'clock, that is my time. And I'm a night owl. I'll stay up till like 12, 1 o'clock, just being by myself, maybe doing rubbish, reading, Instagramming, or just watching rubbish TV. But I think that I know that I can have that 3-4 hours of doing nothing in my time, because all the other times I've been so productive. And I think I do sort of kick myself when I think I had all that time, why did I waste it?
Yeah, I think it's easy to think that time is wasteful if you're not being productive, and that's something that I've also learned as well, is that if you're not doing something 24/7, so I'm very similar to you, I love to cram in a million things in my day. In fact, I think I work only well when I have multiple things to do. But I think on that opposite side, like you, need my alone time. So, recently went to a wedding with my friends and we were all staying together, and we would all come back from the morning event, and then everyone would come back to the apartment and everyone would sit downstairs, and I would genuinely sit alone for 3 hours upstairs, and they didn't take it offensively. And I think also having that boundary with your friends and them understanding you, they knew that, okay, Shivani needs her alone time, And then
Yeah, yeah,
they wouldn't ask me. They'd be like, "Do you want to come downstairs? We won't bother you because we know you like your
yeah,
alone time." And that
yeah.
allowed me to refresh and then go back in the evening in the reception and talk to everyone again. Because I think often there's a misconception that you have to be an extrovert or an introvert. Like you're either or. There's just no in the middle. And people when they see me are like, "You're obviously an extrovert." And I would say I am, but I also really need that alone time to be an extrovert and to be really talkative and to be really friendly. So I think it's really important to understand your own boundaries and then understand how they can help you with your businesses as well.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love hearing that. And I sometimes think it comes down to my star sign. I'm an Aquarius, and they say that, anyone that puts, a stamp on your not time or your freedom, it's almost suffocating. So for me, someone else making plans for me and saying, "Oh, 7 o'clock at Saturday, can you be here?" Like that would freak me out.
Yeah,
I need to have, need to be so in control of my time and my diary. Other people making time, almost like even if I can make it, I'm like, no, hang on a second.
yeah,
I need to make sure if I need it to.
absolutely.
I don't know why that is, but you sound quite similar to that. I
I
need to be
know.
very in control of my time and how I'm going to use it. And I don't want other people to control it for me. So in a way, lockdown for me, I did quite relish and I really, really enjoyed it. And I know that's a bad thing to say, but I'm going to admit it really was some good switch off time away from anyone else, just to kind of really be in my bubble. And yeah, I really did, yeah,
Absolutely.
thrive on it.
Yeah, my mum's always saying to me, like, you and your boundaries, because all I ever say is, like, this is my boundary. And she's always like, all you ever talk about is your boundaries. And I'm like, I know, because it's important to me. And time is definitely one of those things. So yeah, I definitely agree with you, even though I'm Cancerian, so we're different star signs, but it's interesting
Yeah,
to hear that perspective.
yeah.
One of the things that I think we haven't covered, and I think is so, so, so important, is you're a private chef. But when you left MasterChef, you didn't know that that was an industry you could go into, right? So what you said at the beginning was so powerful. Cooking leads to being a chef or working in a restaurant. What's the other alternative? And I think a lot of people, when they're starting a new business or they're thinking of an idea or they're passionate about something, think they can't turn it into a career because the pathway that they've been shown, they think that's the only one, right? So they only think that there's one pathway to something that they're passionate about. What you did was actually create your own. How did you do that? Because how did you, number one, think of the idea? And number two, how did you have the confidence to
Mhm.
execute on it?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, actually. Yeah, I do feel I look back and I think, gosh, I did actually create my own job, like an own career. I didn't realize it existed. Probably it did, but I've never come across really private chefs. I mean, it's the rich and famous have private chefs. I never came across it. And then when I did my first dinner party for my banker, and I did, I loved it. I really enjoyed it and thought, hang on, I've done this in my own time. I've done it on a Saturday, and that's it. I don't have to do it again until I choose to do it again.
Right.
And then it was a case of Instagram pictures, people going, "Oh, do you do this? Are you cooking dinner parties at home?" I'm like, "Maybe I do." Okay, shall I do this? So then I just went for it. Every sort of few weeks, I sort of went and cooked for people because to me, like cooking for people at home, I was always like, "Oh, do you want to come around to eat?" I used to always, get my friends around. They used to be like, "Oh, Nisha's going to cook for us." It was just a normal thing. I used to be like, "Oh, I'm doing what I normally do, just
Mm-hmm.
packing it in a box, taking it to someone's house, and doing it in their house, and getting paid for it. Win-win." Um, and then I think the whole celebrity side came about because sometimes it's not a waste, but you almost think, oh, 20 years, like people say to me, "Oh, but you spent 20 years, nearly 20 years in banking, what a waste." And I'm like, no, not at all. There's never a waste. I learned so much.
Right.
And all that grounded I had, all that business acumen or wherever can lead me somewhere, but this is how fate worked out. So I looked after someone at UNICEF, I looked after their account, and then they sort of put me up and said, "We loved you on MasterChef. Would you be willing to come and work with us on Soccer Aid," which was all the footballers, all the big Soccer Aid event that happens every single year. And I went, yeah, okay then. And if I didn't burn my bridges and I didn't work at that place, I wouldn't have got this contact for UNICEF, where I
Yes.
went, designed this menu, and met Joe Wicks. So
Amazing.
the little stepping stones of getting someone. Never ever think that you're doing something and it's such a waste of time, and it might not feel right at that time, but it's actually sort of it is. I'm a very sort of believer in fate and the universe and things guiding you and things being at the right place at the right time. And I really believe that was there to build me up. To have that confidence and to have that, when you said approach these celebrities, how do I do that? How did I feel comfortable enough? Because for the last 17 years, my client base was the very high net worth individuals of the UK. Like, you know, in my 20s, going to millionaire, billionaire houses, you know, getting to go in helicopters and doing all these things that I did, I kind of like almost made myself a little bit immune to it, because I thought, okay, this is that life. Great. I love seeing it. And I loved coming back to my little house and just having my I remember once telling a billionaire about Nando's. He couldn't get over the concept. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You get this sauce. I was like, you go up to the counter, and he's like, oh my God, it sounds fascinating. I said, I'll take you. And, you know, I then understood the beauty of them loving my life as well as me having an insight into their life. And that sort of relationship was so endearing, because it was both of us learning stuff from each other. And yeah, and I was almost like, I was never embarrassed about where I came from, and I think that's what they loved. And I think just being myself with them, they sort of, that's what was attracted them. So when I go to celebrity houses now, it's it's honestly so enchanting that when they call me their friend, they trust me now, because they just know I am who I am, and I'm not trying to impress them because of their money or their place or their status. Nothing like that. It's because I just love to cook, and I always say to them, because I go into their houses, these celebrities don't get to go to restaurants like me and you and have a meal, the whole meal, without being interrupted. You know, I've created this sort of niche market of giving them the privilege of privacy. They're paying me for the privilege. So people almost say to me, oh, but you only cook for celebrities now. Yes, my major client base is celebrities, because they realise that they could trust me. They can be in their own house, have as many glasses of wine that they want. They won't get papped. They can be with their famous brothers, sisters, you know, people around them, their friends who are famous. And no one needs to know about it. And there are so many things that I haven't put on Instagram because of their privacy. And I just feel more than anything, okay, they're enjoying a meal, but imagine that, to have that privacy, something that we take for granted. So that's where I feel it's been the most powerful for me. Yeah.
So many amazing points. I mean, I just want to pick out a couple of things. So one of the things I think I'm hearing from a lot of entrepreneurs is, and I think I'm struggling with a little bit as well, is that you need to have everything figured out in the beginning. So what you've just said very coherently, you've given, privacy element to the celebrities, you're now a private chef. How long did it take for you to kind of come up with the full picture? Because I think normally what happens, and I think you can back me up on this as well, in an Indian culture, when you have an idea, someone will say, well, tell me the 5-year plan, tell me the goal, tell me exactly what you're going to do at every time. And what I'm hearing from a lot of people is, we don't know, we don't have it all figured out. So what do you do? Because I know that when we spoke as well, you said, you had a lot of resistance from people that were saying, going into cooking, that's not a reputable career. And a lot of the things right now that, we get a lot of jobs with social media. And so as a younger generation, we understand the impact of it and how it can really give us a salary. We don't necessarily need, like we were talking about before, there's not only one avenue to making a career now, or one avenue to making money. You don't have to be sitting at a desk 9 to 5 and be being paid by an employer. You can actually be self-employed and do that yourself. So 2 questions there, because I feel like I've modeled this out.
No, it's great points.
How do you push yourself through that time where you don't have a clear picture? And number 2, how do you deal with the resistance? Because when you're kind of building that picture, you don't have that clarity. So people around you may not necessarily support you.
Yeah. So the first point about, that plan, that's what I thought, that you needed a plan. But I have always kind of worked with the philosophy of whichever event, dinner party or project or anything I do, I look at it at the fresh eyes once I've done it. How can I make it better next time? Wow. And I've always realised because the celebrities I go back to their houses time and time again, I love it when they say to me, that was even better than last time. And they said, we thought last time you topped it, but this time was even better. So I love that almost challenge of how can I make it even better? There must be something. Okay, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. So recently, I've now teamed up with a tablescape company, because what I used to do is go into these houses and then they just have their tablecloth on there, maybe some flowers in the middle, and that was it. And I was like, there's something missing here. I need to create the whole atmosphere. I should be able to do that as well. So, I added that onto it, even if it's dishes, whatever it could be. Every single time I made it better, even if it was like an Instagram reel or an Instagram video, or let me make it a bit better. How can I make it better? So I think it is definitely experience. Like whatever you've done last time, if you can improve on that somewhere, just completely dissect it and see how you can make it better. And sometimes you might not need to make it better. It's okay. Consistency is always key in a lot of things, exercise, food. you know, your job, career, consistency in a lot of areas is where you should, you know, apply. But consistency gets you so far. But, you know, consistency driven improvement will get, now I sound too corporate. Sorry, that you can tell my corporate.
Like I heard an appraisal on that.
But basically, sometimes not having that plan, because, you know, that's what people say to me. They're like, what's next? What's next? I'm like, I don't know. I'll see what kind of happens. And it does happen like that. So, you know, recently I went to a dinner party and someone influential was there. And organically, they've been like, will you come to my house? And organically, it's happened for me.
Right.
And I know it doesn't always happen like that for people. So it's okay. Maybe have a short-term plan. Go, oh, it'd be nice to do this next month.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But if you're kind of like setting yourself for a 5-year plan and say in 3 years you're nowhere near that, then you're almost going to feel like you failed before you've started. Why set yourself such a big mountain to climb? Why not do these little increments and, you know, sort of pat yourself on the back when you get a few steps of the way. So I think that's how I've sort of you know, done it. And I think sometimes people's expectations, so leading on to the next questions, people's expectation, you're almost trying to satisfy others. Don't do that. Why? Why are you trying to satisfy what they expect of you? I get it all the time. Oh, Nisha, when are you going to have a book? When are you going to be on TV? And I just say to them, it will happen when my time is meant to be. Like, I really believe in the whole, I believe in the process.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the moment you're in. The minute you're completely chasing something else, you'll forget the purpose of why you're actually there. So try and just believe the process. Of course, have ambition. But yeah, also try not to sort of fall into the traps of the expectation of others, because I think that's what we're always trying to do, impressing others. Just embrace yourself if you can, to the, you know, and the nearest circle around you. So yeah, your second question was how others can almost like, was it take you down or like not believe in you? And
yeah, I think when you don't have a clear picture, so when someone says to you, what are you doing? And you say, I'm doing this, and they're thinking, well, how are you going to make a career out of that?
But that's their own fears. That's their own sort of insecurities, because they'll think to themselves, how could you do that? I could never do that. It might not be a reflection on you. Sometimes people are saying things, it's a reflection of them. So that's what I think. Because they're scared of it. But actually, taking it back to like my dad, for example, that I know that's coming from a place of he is very concerned about me. It's not about him. So it depends who the person is. So for example, when I told my dad I'm leaving my job and I'm going to cook, he was like, what, you're going to cater at weddings? What are you going to do? What's it going to pay? Are you going to, you know, what's going to happen if you don't have enough? It all came down to the basics of finance, money, because for them, success is money, because they came from a very sort of poor country. They didn't have the opportunities they were given here. I mean, to the basics of like, I think he was thinking to himself, but you're in a lovely air-conditioned office. You're going to go into a hot kitchen. I mean, you know, to him, it was like, I was up here and now I'm going to be manual labor. That whole... you know, what's it called? What's that word I'm looking for? The class, the status, that, you know, it was almost not prestigious enough.
Right. Oh, honestly, so
actually to the point where he didn't tell anybody I was going on MasterChef. It was only when he was at work. He was on his computer at work. He was an accountant. He is. On the computer behind him, there must have been like colleagues at the back, you know, coffees, you know, discussing, did you see MasterChef last night? Oh, there's this girl on there. Did you see she made an Indian English breakfast? It was amazing. And he's listening to it, and he goes, oh yes, that's my daughter. And they went, hang on, she's been in this MasterChef for the last month, and you tell us now and he was like, I didn't think it was a big deal. So, you know, the perception of sort of success to different generations is so different. And then after that, you realise, oh, okay, it's a TV programme. Once it was over, he's like, okay, whatever. And now he is my biggest fan. He's my biggest cheerleader, my biggest follower on Instagram, because everybody else around him is so proud and thinks, oh my God, your daughter's doing amazing things. And it's almost like he needed the sort of...
validation,
reassurance, and from everyone else, it's okay to break the mold.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, I'm Asian. I might not be a doctor, lawyer, dentist. I'm a cook, but actually, I think I educated him that it's okay. And he, you know, one of the things he said to me, and he never writes nice things in a card or whatever. It's always like, to Nisha, love from Dad. It's very basic. And he wrote, it is nice to see you very happy, like you have a weight lifted off your shoulders. You know, I am so proud of you. He has never said that in his life. He said that to me when I was 40.
I love
because
that.
I went against the grain. So,
I
yeah.
love that. That's my favourite part of your story. I remember when you told me that, I almost had a tear in my eye because
Oh,
I think it's really hard. So I also have two parents, very different in their way of thinking and in their way of support. And I say that is because I know they both support me, but they support me in very different ways. So my mum will support me in everything I do. You know, I say I want to like climb a mountain, I want to go traveling by myself, whatever it was that I wanted to do. She'd be like, "I back you 100%." She'd always be doubtful. But my dad, if I present to him an idea, I need to make sure I'm presenting it like a court of law because he's going to ask me every single question, and I need to be there to answer it. And at first, I used to find this when I was younger really overwhelming, you know. So my mum would be like, "I want to test you on your homework." And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And I know that even if I didn't know the answer, I could be like, "Oh, look over there," or, you know, "Let me worm my way out of this." And she would be like, "Okay, it's fine. Don't worry, you don't know it. It's okay." But my dad would be like, "Why don't you know it? Why haven't you studied?" And so when I've presented them with ideas that I have, I know my mum will always support me, which is what I need. But my dad will always be the one that's going to make sure I succeed because
Yeah,
he will ask me all those questions that someone else will. And if
yeah,
I'm not kind of bulletproofed by those questions, then I won't be able to go ahead with the idea. So I think when you're younger, it's very easy to see parents as like good and bad and like the good cop, bad cop. You know, we almost talk about that a lot, right? You know, who's going to be the good cop, who's going to be the bad cop. But I think it's really important to have both sides because
definitely.
and realize that both are supporting you because they're just giving you different perspectives and different levels of care based on what they believe is right. And like you said, and I think this is the best point you've made, is every generation has a different meaning of what success is.
Yeah.
You know, every single individual defines success in a different way. But more importantly, generationally, we're seeing that gap. And it's about educating each other and being understanding with each other and that, you know, all of our past, I'm sure when I have kids, they're going to think success is completely different to what I think it is. And it's really all about learning and molding your way into understanding what's right for that individual person rather than what's right for you. If
And,
you're that person, does that make sense? If
oh,
you're advising
totally,
that
totally.
person.
And I, oh my God, and that's really hit home with me because now I'm a parent, I'm questioning my parenting skills and how I'm approaching my kids. And I think even in this generation, talk about generation and success, in my generation, like the mums around me and parents around me, everyone's very sort of academic and let's send our school our kids to the best school, let's do, and of course that's all really important, whereas I feel like my parenting approach with what I've been through is a lot more casual. It's a lot more about,
Yeah.
well, what makes you really happy? What do you want to do? You know, you can. It's really sort of like I'm not pinning everything on academics because I know that's really important. But I've really discovered personality and like, you know, just be doing something that you're really good at skill set. It doesn't necessarily have to come
Of
from
course.
academics. So I've
Of
kind of
course.
calmed down a little bit when just like, oh, you have to get 10 out of 10 and A's and everything. I've really changed. I'm really casual about that. And I think, you know, people in my generation probably look at me and go, oh, you're really, you know, you're really laid back about it all. But I feel like I've got the best out of my kids that way more because the other approach didn't work for me. Whereas, yeah, so me and my husband are different. So he might be a little bit more pushy. And yeah, it's really important to have both. But it's funny how just in
Mm.
my generation now, the parents around us, like how we all still think differently. And some of those old fashioned, there's nothing wrong with them, those old fashioned views of success and just academics is still very, very existent. And that
Of
pushing of,
course.
you know, the top five careers is still there. We're still not breaking mold. You know,
We're still not.
it's still like, you know, he or she will go to Cambridge or Oxford and do medicine or dentistry, and it is
Yeah.
still there. And so we've still got a lot of work to do where it's kind of like let them follow their dreams. You know, even if it doesn't matter if they're not the richest in the world, but you know
Of
that
course.
richness will come from that happiness of having something that fulfills their soul. Because I had that career where you know it was great pay, but was I happy? Did it fill my soul? Absolutely not.
And now look, you're doing something you love and you're getting paid even more. So I think the point is that there's different options, there's different avenues. Like you've just said, education is one, something else could be the other. You know, there are different options and we just need to explore them. But I've loved this podcast. I feel like we've had so many amazing points, and you know, I have to clip the podcast down into reels, and I don't actually know which one I'm going to do because all of this has been so great. So
Oh,
I'm
really,
so
really.
grateful. Thank you for making the time. I know you're super busy with the Secret Garden, and everyone who hasn't been, make sure you go. I still need to come actually. I've just seen
Oh,
on
please
Instagram and it looks
do.
amazing. So I do
Yeah,
need
just
to
to
come.
touch on that point, and that's why I created the Secret Garden because I felt like because I was constantly cooking for celebrities, not being able to cook for everyone, I thought, how can I get an element of that for everyone else. So that was a lockdown project. It's a place where people reunite. It's based on the book. It's all about just celebrating, and most people that come there are celebrating, and it's ageless. People come with their mums, their dads, their grandmas. They come with, you know, their husbands, their friends. Everybody and anyone comes just to be together, and it's an Instagrammable place. But I made it like that because when they look back on their photo feed, it stands out, and you'll always have a picture of you at the Secret Garden. That's what it was for, because sometimes it's not just about feeding people, it's about how you've made them feel and how they you know, the experience. And so yeah, that's the Secret Garden. There you go.
It's based on the book. How lovely. I love that book.
Yeah, it's on the book. It's about healing and healing powers of the garden. So I'd love to invite you. Come down, please. I'd love to feed you and continue more chats, because I think we could chat forever.
We could.
We're so like-minded. And I really, you've been wonderful, like, to, you know, interviewer. Is that what? Yeah, you've been amazing. Yeah. It's just flowed really naturally, and I haven't felt like there's been questions where I have, you know, I've just treated this like a chat, and that it's just been so authentic, and I've enjoyed it very much. So thank you, Siobhan.
I'm so glad, and hopefully I will see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.